Cam Akers. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I said this at the beginning of training camp. I think maybe after the draft when they drafted Kieran Williams, that if Henderson and Williams are going to be a part of this, then Akers is going to struggle because he's going to share carries, and I was a little concerned about Williams with the passing game role. When we had Williams hurt right after the draft, we got that news. I was like, okay, Akers' role in the passing game should be fine. And we've talked about this a lot about how typically Sean McVay, when he has the guy, he leans on the guy. But just everything that's unfolding for Cam Akers right now, on top of the fact that he's still going as the 21st running back based on ADP in round 4, it just seems like just adding up for a bad start. I hope it's not a bad finish, because at one point I drafted Cam Akers in round 4 pretty consistently, and I feel icky about that now. So I'm still hopeful he'll be a good fantasy option, but I'm just not confident that he's going to be the breakout that I had hopes for him to be this year.
I want to just throw out, I'm not going to use necessarily the word bust. I just figured this was the best time to bring him up in the show. One thing that stood out to me from preseason week 3 that could lead to a little bit of bust potential, I want to get your thoughts on Alvin Kamara. And Kamara came out, looked great. He was obviously the starter. He was involved on the opening drive, but Mark Ingram ran it in from the goal line. And just going back to what it used to be, they didn't really have, when they were clicking, they didn't really have a specified goal line back. They both got their opportunities. I don't think that Ingram's going to score more touchdowns than Kamara, but I do think there are going to be times when Ingram takes Kamara off the field in those situations. I know that you brought this up, and I brought it up. There were only 4 games last year where Kamara played fewer than 70% of the snaps, and those were the only 4 games he played with Ingram. So I don't want to use the term bust, but I didn't like that development, because I do think that could continue at certain times in the regular season of Ingram getting in at the goal line and scoring some touchdowns. What did you think of that?
It's hard to say with the preseason, just because, who knows what they were trying to accomplish there. I think they feel pretty good about Kamara punching in from the goal line if they have to. Maybe they just want to get Ingram some work. But obviously it's a concern. It's something that we discussed before, or along with the potential suspension, that it's not just going to be him in this every down role. And they don't want to necessarily do that. Now, Pete Prisco was in New Orleans, and he brought this up after, I assume, speaking to the coaching staff there and the front office there, the guys that he knows, that without Sean Payton there, that we could see a situation where Dennis Allen or Pete Carmichael, Allen the head coach, Carmichael the offensive coordinator, that they don't take him off the field in some of those situations because they don't feel like they have to necessarily baby him as much. And so maybe that Peyton was doing that a little bit. So we'll see. I don't think that's a reason to run away from him, because when you start to compare him to the guys that he's being drafted around, and I think, if you want to bring Mixon in the conversation, I would take him after Mixon. But, when you start to compare him to Aaron Jones, well, we know Jones is going to share touches. When you compare him to Barkley, who feels safer? I think you can make a case Kamara feels safer. Suspension scenario aside. Deandre Swift. Kamara's probably in a better spot, right, in terms of sharing touches.
Yeah.
So those top tier guys in the first and second round, Javonte Williams, if you want to put him there also, there's clearly committees. And so how much of the split do you favor the lead guy? I still favor Kamara by a significant margin. And I'm not worried about the fact that Mark Ingram may steal a touchdown or 2.
Dave's busts. Okay. This is a sexy list to end the show with, Dave. We only have a few minutes left. So Christian McCaffrey based on ADP. I think he's going 2nd overall. You would take McCaffrey?
4th overall in full PPR. So it feels nitpicky to say that, but I feel like no one is putting any stock into what's happened the last 2 years when they take him at 1st or 2nd overall.
I kind of agree with you on that. And I was talking to my brother-in-law yesterday, and we were talking about McCaffrey, and I said, yeah, he's been so bad the last 2 years. And I said, that said, I drafted him 3rd overall in a league last week, and it's the happiest I've been in months.
Dude, I got him in my 2 father-son leagues with my kids. 6th in one draft.
Ooh.
And 7th in another. This is non-PPR.
Yeah, I saw the 7th one.
Can I tell you why I was so happy to get him, Dave?
Yeah, sure. Go nuts.
This is, by the way, a joke, but because he's obviously, to me, he has the most upside in fantasy. But if he gets hurt, you have a beautiful built-in excuse. If you don't do well in fantasy, hey, it wasn't my fault. My guy got hurt.
I just took the guy that's been hurt each of the last 2 years, and he got hurt again. Who knew?
All right. You're saying James Conner, based on his ADP, is a bust.
On CBS, his ADP is like 25th overall, I thought that was too soon.
When would you take James Conner?
Middle to the end of round 3.
Okay. Would you take Connor or David Montgomery?
I believe I have Connor ranked higher.
Connor is the bridge back, right?
He's one of them. AJ Dillon is the real bridge tender.
How about Javonte Williams or James Conner?
Give me Javonte.
All right. And then Rashad Bateman, Juju Smith-Schuster, based on their ADPs.
On NFC. So these are now I'm cherry picking.
Okay.
I'm Azer statting the ADPs.
I love it.
Bateman and Juju are just going too high for my taste. I'm worried about Bateman getting a lot of volume in this offense. They want to run. We'll see if they might not be able to if Dobbins isn't ready, and then everything will change. But I think that not only do they like Isaiah Likely and how he can contribute, I think they like their potential slot receivers too, Prochet and Duvernay. One of them might pave the way to kind of make Bateman's upside go away.
Why don't we go sit by the bay and eat some hay or make things out of clay, Dave? All right, George Kittle Juju. I'm sorry. Wait, so I have to get a time in the draft that you're willing to draft Bateman and Juju.
Sure, Bateman. Give me a sec.
Okay,
I've got him at the end of round 6. Juju's right after that. Kittle's right in between them. So early to mid 70s for all 3 of these guys. Kittle's the one I'm probably the most nervous about.
Yeah, mid 70s. Wow.
Yeah, I'm just taking a bunch of other players ahead of him.
Okay.
Kittle might be 3rd on the team in targets. I don't know how many times they'll throw. Lance has not looked great throwing the football this preseason. And Ayuk has stepped up. He's going to get targets downfield. Lance might be one of those guys that's more of a downfield thrower than a check down guy. I think he likes his big arm, and I think that hurts Kittle. And the offensive line has some questionable issues as far as blocking goes, and they'll use Kittle more as a blocker if that's what they need to do. So I've moved Schultz ahead of him. I've moved Goddard ahead of him. I'm out on Kittle this year.